his wife Marina Howard, and they're raising a decent, great 2 kids in the eyes of the Lord. Thank you for all they do at this church. Thank you that they are here to teach us what a godly marriage looks like. Thank you that they lead the church here each and every week with worship on Sundays, and even 21 days of prayer in January, and even coming up in a couple weeks. They show up every single day, fearlessly serving you. Thank you that they are an example of what a godly marriage is. May the words they have to share with us tonight about marriage be from you, not them, but from your word, and bless them as they share with us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Jonathan. Well, I want to say thank you, Colette, for inviting us. We're excited to be here. We're excited to just share a little bit about what we've learned along life's way, and what we've learned from experience and from people far wiser than us over the course of our life. So I want to start off by taking a little poll of the room. Who in here is single? All right. Who is in a relationship? Raise your hand if you're in a relationship. All right. Raise your hand if you at some point in time in your future ever want to get married one day.
Yes.
All right. Pretty much everybody. Okay. Awesome. So, we have, I want to give a little bit of introduction about us. We have 2 beautiful babies. Eden is our 2-year-old, and Ezra is our newborn that my sister-in-law is holding over there. Emily has known me since I was probably Ezra's age.
She said before you were born.
Yeah, before I was born. Yeah.
So, longer than me.
A whole lot longer. Yeah. We. It's funny. Our families both grew up in Texas, and now we all live here. Well, her family doesn't. Some of our family does, but anyway, we both live here now. So
yeah, that's Ezra right there.
Yeah, that's Ezra. He's beautiful. He looks like his mama. So anyhow, what else? What's interesting about us? Yeah. What do we like to do?
Oh, we love food.
Yeah. Sushi.
Yeah, sushi.
Pizza. Fat Mike's. Anybody like Fat Mike's? No?
Nobody knows this place.
It's in downtown Woodward, and it's delicious. Best chicken in the area, hands down.
Yeah, weirdly obsessed with that place.
I love that chicken.
But yeah, we're foodies. We love animals of all kinds.
At one point, we had 2 cats, 2 dogs, 2 rabbits, 18 chickens, and I feel like there was something else we had at that time.
A hamster? No, we didn't have it.
Yeah.
We had a lot of animals.
No, we almost got a goat.
But we didn't.
But
Thank God.
anyhow.
So that's a little bit about us.
We've been married now almost 7 years.
He's rounding up. We've been married for 6 years, yeah.
Oh yeah, it would have been, 6 years. I mean, we're close enough.
He did good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And we've been together for 8 years.
yep. Our one of our verses for today is Psalm 37, verses 4 through 6. You can just write down that reference if you're taking notes. Psalm 37, 4 through 6. It says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in Him, and He will act. He will bring forth your righteousness as the light, and your justice as the noonday." And the reason we want to share this verse with you today is because so much of life, and especially relationships and marriage, is about committing yourself to the Lord in all that you do and delighting yourself in Him. And we did a lot of things wrong before we met each other. We each did a lot of things wrong, but we started doing things right before we met each other. And throughout our dating and our engagement, we did a lot of things right. And we want to share some of those things with you that was recommended to us by the counsel that we had, and things that just the Holy Spirit spoke to us and put it on our heart to do to keep ourselves in the right path in God's will for our life. And it was the things that we did right that eventually brought all kinds of blessings into our life. Because who knows, when you don't follow God's will for your life, you end up messing things up, and you end up empty, and you end up just wishing that there was some other way. But when we started doing things right, we experienced unbelievable blessings from God, and so it's been awesome. So there are 5 things that we have learned that are really, really important when you are looking for a relationship and beginning a relationship that will eventually lead to marriage. You want to show the first one?
I do. So the first one is just remaining committed to God. Kind of a Sunday school answer, but if you dig a little bit deeper, the way that we met, it was in a time in our lives when we basically made like a recommitment to Christ. For me personally, I had just, after running around like a crazy person and just saying, throwing all caution to the wind, pretty much. After a year of that, I was like, okay, I need to have a fresh start and I need to reset. And I recommitted my life to Christ, and I got baptized at my church. And that time it was my choice. My first baptism, I was like 6. I didn't know what that meant. But when I was 18, that's when I got baptized. It was my choice. And so with that recommitment, I was like, okay, I need to get around Christians, just like what you guys are doing. I was like, I need to make friends with people that love Jesus and that are going to be a good influence on my life, and not say, hey, let's go out. You know what I mean? Like, let's go do, whatever, XYZ that's not good. Not good. Sorry. So, I just turned it off by accident. Anyways.
Yeah, I was in a similar boat too. I was in a relationship with a girl for 5 years, and we were on and off all the time. And I knew she wasn't good for me, but I stayed in the relationship for all the wrong reasons. And eventually, I reached a point. I reached what they call rock bottom. Right? I reached a point where I was miserable. I was chasing after satisfaction in all the wrong places, and realized I was completely empty. And I kind of had this moment with God where I was just like, God, I am done with everything that's not good in my life, and I just need you to tell me what to do. I had moved out of my parents. I had stopped going to church. I had dropped out of college, and I was also 18. I was just
Yeah, you were 19.
I was 19 at the time. And I was in a similar situation. God spoke very clearly to me. He said, go back to church, but not just any church. Go back to the church where you made some mistakes at, and hurt some people, and damaged some relationships. Get back in school, move back in with your parents. I did all those things, a dramatic 180. And I too felt, man, I need some good people in my life, some good influences. And so I went to this Bible study, which was almost an hour away from my house, that somebody had invited me to 6 months prior. It's kind of a weird situation. Why I went there, I don't really know.
A divine appointment.
Yeah. So anyway, so it's kind of funny because we, I'll be honest, our story is kind of this fairy tale story a little bit, but it's not.
It doesn't always happen this way.
No, it doesn't always happen this way. So we both independently, we recommit our lives to God. We both are looking for new friends, godly friends, who will keep us straight. And we both went to this Bible study. We were both new to this Bible study. Little did we know we were about to meet each other.
Wow.
I'd been going there a couple months, and it was her second week there.
Okay, well, hold on. Just for the fun of it. So the first time, I'm getting, the person that invited me was introducing me to everybody at the Bible study. And so we're going around, blah, blah, blah. I'm shaking hands, getting no names, and I meet him. I was like, yeah, great to meet you. Didn't even give him a second look.
I didn't give her a second look either. I didn't.
I was like, man, I was like, well, that other guy's kind of,
I low-key, though. Yeah, I low-key, part of the reason I went is I did want to find a good Christian girl, right? Anybody here for a good Christian girl?
Yes.
Come on. Be honest. Be honest. Anybody here for a good Christian guy? You looking for a guy? So, yeah, so that's kind of funny. But then
The second time.
the second time.
Yeah.
Oh, you said the second time?
My
Okay.
second time.
How long do we have, Colette?
Oh
Don't say that. We'll be here all night.
no.
Okay.
No.
I'll make this quick. So, I actually was in that Bible study that night. I can't even remember what the topic was, but I just remember having this unbelievably powerful moment with God, where He told me, stop looking. Just stop constantly looking, because my focus was in the wrong place. I really was. I came to this Bible study. I was doing a lot of things right, and I was trying to get my focus on the right track, but my focus was still, there was another girl, not her, but another girl who I didn't have my eyes on at the time. And I was diving deep into the Bible study, but I was also, afterwards, I was diving deep in conversation, trying to get to know some girls too. So anyways, but this night, I felt God telling me so clearly, stop. Your focus needs to be on me. 100% on me. And He actually told me a few things. I'm like a rational, intellectual person. I analyze everything. So this is the way God speaks to me sometimes. He said, first of all, you're spending so much time looking around that you could miss something that's right in front of you. Number two, you're wasting energy, because for all you know, you're not going to meet the girl that you're going to marry for another 5 years. And if that's the case, all the time and mental energy that you're giving this thing is all a complete waste. And I can't remember, there was something else he said very clearly to me. But in that moment, I said, okay, God, I'm done. I'm done looking. And then about 20 minutes later, Bible study ends. I go grab my buddy's guitar. And I just want to spend some time worshiping God. So I grab my buddy's guitar. I'm in the hallway by myself, singing a worship song. And this stranger, who I'd never actually spoken to her directly, walks up to me and starts singing harmony with me. And we had about a 5-minute conversation. We said goodbye. She goes in the car, calls her mom sobbing, says she just met the guy she's going to marry. How she knew that, I don't really know. I kind of had the thought, man, I wonder if something might go somewhere with this girl. And immediately I was like, oh no, get behind me, Satan. I just told God, I am not thinking about girls anymore. And so the whole week I'm like, Lord, keep her off my mind. I'm focused on you. Keep her off my mind.
Put me on his mind. Lord, make him think about me.
So that was that. About 3 weeks into becoming friends, we were already having those conversations. It's like, so when you get married,
hypothetically, maybe.
How many kids do you want to have? Anyways, that was fun. But we started dating about 6 weeks later. We were engaged 6 months after that, and then got married 10 months later. When I asked her, so side note for the fellas, if you really want to get to a girl's heart, let me tell you how I asked her out. I at Bible study.
Hold on, this is a good segue.
What?
Go ahead, sorry. You go.
Okay.
Okay, keep going. Sorry.
We're at Bible study, and I don't know how, I somehow got you to leave your phone unlocked. Snuck her dad's number out of her phone, called him, said, hey, my name's Benjamin, I'm sure you've heard about me by now, I'd like to meet you. We met up in a park. And I had a conversation with her dad and said, hey, listen, I'm interested in dating your daughter. It was like an hour-long conversation. I actually told him like a lot about my past. I said, this is the man that I used to be. This is the man that I'm striving to be now. And if it's okay, I'd like your blessing to date your daughter. Yeah, and so, and he said, absolutely, yes. And so, anyways, then I asked her to if she wanted to start a relationship formally. Later that night, I think it was, and of course she said yes. She was floored when she got home and discovered that
My parents knew the
her
whole
parents
time.
already knew.
They already knew that I was getting asked out that
And then I had met with him and everything. She was like
I melted off
half
the couch.
embarrassed, but like half like flattered, because that meant a lot to her. Anyhow, I'm a little bit old-fashioned, but I think there's something honoring about that. I would love it if Eden's boyfriend were to come to me and say, hey, I'd like your permission to date your daughter. I would love that. That would show a lot of integrity and honor to me. So I wanted to do that for her dad. So and I know every situation's different. I mean, some people don't have a dad in their life, and but that person could be someone else in their life. But anyhow, so number one is commitment to God. 5 things that we've learned that are really, really important. Did we already say commitment to God? Okay. Oh yeah, and then how we met. So Psalm 37, delight yourself in the Lord, commit your way to the Lord, it says. And so we wanted to commit ourselves to God from the very beginning. And when I asked her out, is this here? No, hold on. Yeah. So we both had these other relationships that had our attention. Eventually we both realized that nothing was good was coming out of those. We decided to commit ourselves to God. And that was when we ended up meeting each other.
That's when God was like, oh, you've chosen me. Here's the desire of your heart. And it's not always immediate like that. But
yeah. Y'all ever seen that picture on Instagram, on like the internet, of this little girl, and she's holding this little bear, and there's Jesus in front of her, and he's asking her to give it to him, and she doesn't want to give it to him, and behind his back is this big giant teddy bear. Y'all seen that picture? That is how it felt when I finally gave up all of the things that I was looking for, and then God truly gave me the desires of my heart. Everything that I ever wanted and needed in a woman, He provided to me. Literally 10 minutes after I finally, deep in my heart, said, God, I'm letting go, and I'm done. And I'm just going to follow your will for my life. And whatever that means, that's what it means. So that's the most important thing right there. Number 2. Go ahead, babe.
okay. Oh yes. Okay. So number 2, the second thing we did is we established healthy boundaries. So this is a big. Boundaries can look different. There are different types of boundaries. But for us, he was very intentional, and so was I. But like from the start of our relationship, before he even allowed me before he even asked me to be his girlfriend, we're standing outside. I'm getting ready to leave after we had a night with our friends from the Bible study. I'm standing by my car, and he was like, so I've got something to ask you. He was like, well, before I ask you, he's like, I've got some things I want to say. And
Prerequisites.
Yeah, requirements before I even ask you this thing. And I'm like, dear God, what is he going to say to me? So he basically just said, number one, before we do get into a relationship, and if we do decide to get into a relationship, we need to keep Christ at the center. So that's the first thing. That's, letter A, number 1, keep Christ at the center. Number 2, if at any point we feel like that we've pulled away from Christ, that we will take a step back from our relationship and then draw near to Christ and reassess, where our priorities are. And if it's not Him, then we'll choose to take a step back from each other. And then number 3, if we notice that it's not honoring God, that we'll separate in whatever way is needed. So.
And then another one was that if at any point we feel we aren't going to get married, if it becomes clear to us at any point, for whatever reason, that we shouldn't get married, that we would call it, right then and there, and not continue to get deeper into something.
We don't want to waste each other's time, emotions. There's too much at stake. We didn't believe in dating just to date.
Yeah.
What's the point of that if you're not going to get married at the end of it? So, those were some very clear boundaries. And then, of course, at the end, he was like, so anyway, as long as you're okay with all of that, would you like to be my girlfriend?
So those were some of the boundaries we talked about. And actually, shortly after, a few weeks after we started dating, it was like getting to that point in a relationship where you would normally, work in your first kiss.
Make a move.
Right?
Put the move on.
And as I was thinking about it, and I was really seeking God's will for us, and I don't know, there was something in my spirit that just said, I didn't feel right about it. And part of the reason I didn't feel right about it is because I had crossed that line before with with a past girlfriend, and it made things blurry, right? It made things fuzzy because you start getting physical in a relationship, and you start creating a bond with somebody, and that bond makes it difficult to see, okay, what is love here, and what's just attraction. And so I didn't really want to get into that again. I felt like God was telling me, I don't know, maybe that's not.
Maybe we want to do things differently this time.
And so I talked to her about it, and through prayer and a lot of conversation, we decided we're not going to kiss until we get married. Woo! And we hadn't kissed at that point. We hadn't crossed the line, so we decided we weren't going to do that. Now, that proved to be one of the most challenging quests that we have ever gone on in our life. At one point, things actually got so challenging that we got to a point where we decided, we put our heads together and we're like, okay, at this rate, we're not going to be successful at this. And we felt like we didn't want to ignite, any passions or fire that would lead to much worse things.
We're getting married,
Yeah.
We know we're going to marry each other. We know we're in love, which you hadn't even said that to me yet, but we knew we were in love, and in your mind, you're like, we're basically married, but that's not how.
Yeah, that's not.
That's how the devil creeps in.
Yep, that's one of the ways for sure.
So.
Yeah. But at one point, things got really challenging. We were like, okay, we gotta remember the commitment at the beginning. We said if at any point things start to not honor God, and if Christ isn't in the center and we're getting distracted by things, we're going to take a step back, whatever that looks like. And for this situation, we were like, okay, let's just stop touching, right, altogether.
No holding hands.
No holding hands, no touching.
No.
For a month, and we did it. We went a whole month. We would go on dates, and we'd hang out with friends.
Our parents thought we were weird.
Our parents are both like Christian parents too, really godly parents.
And I was like, you're not even gonna hold his hand. I was like, no, I can't handle it, Mom. I can't handle it.
So we just removed ourselves from that temptation. The Bible says, resist the devil, flee from temptation. And so that's what we wanted to do. And verse I have here, Romans 13:14. You can write that down. Romans 13:14. But put on the Lord Jesus Christ and make no provision for the flesh to gratify its desires. That was our goal. We wanted to make no provision for the flesh to be able to gratify any desires. And we wanted to keep it pure and holy and honorable to God. And so that's how we did that. Point number three, here's the third thing we learned was really important. Keep counsel close and keep yourself accountable. So we kept really, really close counsel. We had, here's a few more verses for you. Proverbs 12:15 says, the way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man listens to advice. A lot of interpretations of that verse says counsel. Proverbs 15:12 says, without counsel, plans fail, but with many advisors, they succeed. And then Proverbs 12:15 was the first one. And then Proverbs 15:22. And then finally, Proverbs 19, verses 20 and 21. Proverbs has a lot of good stuff.
Lots about wisdom.
Yep. And Proverbs 19, 20, 21 says, listen to advice and accept instruction that you may gain wisdom in the future. Many are the plans in the mind of a man, but it is the purpose of the Lord that will stand. We had a woman who had been a mentor of mine for a long time named Miss Kathy, and we met with her regularly, even when things were good. When things were challenging, we met with her and sought counsel on how we can navigate that. And when things were good, we still met. We met like every 2 weeks, I think.
You just don't know. You might be thinking you're operating in a healthy way, and then someone from the outside is like, whoa, actually, that could use a little tweaking. Yeah. Let's talk about that. Let's dive into what you just said.
Counseling is not for people it's not only for people who are going through trauma or extreme crises. The Bible talks, Proverbs over and over and over and over talks about how there's wisdom in the multitude of counselors. You need to have counselors in your life. And this woman, she was not a professional counselor. She was just a kind of a relationship expert kind of in our church. She was the director of discipleship was her title, but She was a very good counselor, but she wasn't our only counselor. We had other counselors who were just people in our life who were wise that we could look up to, who would give us godly advice, who would tell us what we need to hear, not what we want to hear. Anybody got those friends that tell you what?
Not just gonna be your friend, be buddy, and
Yeah, a lot of friends they'll just tell you what you want to hear. That's not a real friend, and that's definitely not good counsel. So, and we had other couples in our life who were older than us that would keep us in check. This belongs in boundaries. This made it in the wrong section. One more thing about boundaries: we were never home alone with one another. We were almost never alone in public together. For the most part, we did a lot of our courting around her family or my family or our Bible study friends. So most of the time we spent together, at least when we were
mostly in
dating.
groups and with either one of our families.
It wasn't until we were engaged that we started going on dates, just the two of us, fairly regularly. But when we did, our parents always knew where we were. And we didn't have to tell our parents. We were 19, 20 for part of our engagement. And we didn't have to tell our parents where we were going or when we were coming back, but we chose to, so that we had people who were holding us accountable. And just keeping things in the light. You keep things in the light, and the enemy just has a really hard time working his way in there. So you keep things. That was part of our reason for sharing that with our
He
parents.
doesn't want godly couples to come
No.
into
No.
fruition or at all. I mean, because you become more powerful when you're together, especially when you're both pursuing Christ together. It's just, that's how God designed it. It's beautiful, and He's going to try to break you apart in any way that He can. So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, number four. One of the things we learned is to prepare early for marriage. Prepare early for marriage. What do I mean by that? Well, during our engagement, we joined a marriage group, and we started preparing to have a successful marriage. Started learning about how to navigate marriage relationship stuff.
And they made fun of us. We'd only been together for 6 months. They're like, these little babies over here, they don't know nothing. And but we were learning from them. That's why we were there. Exactly. We didn't know anything. That's why we were there to learn, listen, and
We read marriage books. We went through Financial Peace University together, so we could learn how to manage finances well. We went through multiple counseling courses, one with our church and one with my grandfather, who's a pastor. And the truth is, if you're going to start a business, usually you don't just dive right into the business, right? You would seek mentors. You would probably
go to college.
Yes, you would go to school, get a degree, get an education in business, so you can prepare yourself to be able to run a successful business. Well, there's no commitment in life, and there's no relationship bigger than the commitment of marriage. And if I would argue that marriage at times can be way more complex than running a business. And so why wouldn't you need to study and learn things about it to be able to prepare you to be able to do it successfully? And so that's what we wanted to do. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 8 says, "For while bodily training is of some value, godliness is of value in every way, as it holds promise for the present life and also for the life to come." And so that's, you got to train. You got to train, you got to prepare, you got to educate yourself to be able to do marriage successfully. It's just like with your body. If you're gonna build up a healthy, strong body, you have to work at it. And it's the same for preparing for marriage. So, a lot of times with, and I'm not criticizing anybody, because we did it too when we were young. But there's a tendency, I think, for young people a lot. Yeah, we're still young, baby. All right, but a lot of times there's this mentality of, I'm just gonna wait, I'm gonna wait, and eventually my true love is just gonna come falling into my life, right? And we learn about this from movies, from Disney. We learn about the one, right? Prince Charming. And the truth is, I'm just telling you, that doesn't exist. It doesn't.
There's no such thing. Sorry to burst all the ladies' bubbles. There's no such thing as the one. Because imagine, we talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
Imagine if one person picked the wrong one, right? Then everybody's one would be all mixed up and messed up, and we'd all be marrying the wrong one.
Logically, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. The one doesn't exist.
And I'll tell you, I don't think that Marina was the perfect woman for me. She's really good for me. And I believe that, like, there's no Mr. or Mrs. Right out there, right? But there are people who are right for you, and there's a whole lot more people out there who are wrong for you.
They're definitely Mr. Wrong and definitely Mrs. Wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my point is that there's no one Mr. Right or Mrs. Right. There's a lot out there.
Yeah.
There are options available to you. Your job is to prepare yourself to be the right husband or the right wife for somebody else, and to focus on building yourself up, preparing yourself, and then the right person will come along. And the right type of people will come along into your life. And your job is to just prepare yourself and be ready, have the wisdom to be able to determine who's good for you and who's not good for you, right? So,
because you're going to attract what you are putting into yourself, and the way that you take care of yourself, that's what you're going to attract and draw in. So, if you're cultivating trash, well, I mean, sorry.
So number 5, this is the last thing that we learned before marriage. Although we have a few things to share about what we've learned after marriage too. So let's keep
that'll
moving.
be faster.
Yeah, that's going to go a lot faster. I promise. So hang with us. But the last thing that we learned before marriage was we learned to be really open and honest with each other up front. Proverbs 4:7 says, "The beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom, and whatever you get insight." A lot of translations say understanding, insight and understanding. Now this verse, it really is talking about getting insight and wisdom from Scripture, from the Word of God and from God Himself. But there is this general truth that applies to all areas of life, that when you can gain understanding, that's a good thing. And so what openness and honesty for us, we had a lot of meaningful conversations.
A lot of hard conversations too.
Was it before or after we got engaged? A lot of these. Well, a lot of them were before.
Before,
a lot
because
of them were
why
before.
get engaged and then get unengaged and
Yeah.
you find out something terrible? I mean, or you find out something that's
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you a lot of things that we talk about. We talk about politics. One of us was raised in a Republican home. One of us was raised in a Democratic home. And so we were raised to believe different things. And so we actually printed out the platforms from the Republican and the Democratic parties. We sat down with them, and we talked about all the major issues.
got real nerdy.
Yeah. We got real serious real fast. This was actually I think before we even dated, or maybe just started dating. We sat down and talked about all the big political issues, just to make sure we were on the same page with one another. We wanted to find out, is there anything that the devil in the future will be able to use to divide us? Because we want to stay united for the long haul. And so we went on a hunt for those things. We didn't find anything political that we disagreed on, I don't think. Praise God. And we talked about our values, things that we valued in life. I asked her a question. I said, if we felt God calling us to move to another state for something, what would you do? She said, I'd start packing my bags. I said, all right, that's a good enough answer for me. Next question. I asked her the same question about, if God calls us to be missionaries overseas. And she's like, I pack my bags, let's go. So that was important for me.
I asked him, what would you do if we can't have kids? Or do you want to have kids? That's a big question. Some people, that's
how many do you want?
Yeah, how many kids do you want?
Yeah. My answer to that question was, then we would just adopt. And she liked that answer. That was good with her, right? We talked about, we shared every detail you can imagine about our past. And there were things that we both wanted each other to know. There were things I wanted her to know. Like, hey, listen, this is the man that I was. These are the things that I've done. If any of those things are deal breakers for you, let me know now. I mean, this was at the very start of our relationship. I wanted to know, do you have any expectations for your future husband that I don't meet the qualifications for? Because if I don't meet the qualifications, let's find that out right now. And so she did the same thing. She shared everything about her past that I might want to know. And we asked each other questions, and we made sure that we understood all that stuff. We talked about money and ministry. I told her, hey, I think I might be called to ministry again one day. That means, it's pastors or people who work in ministry aren't necessarily rolling in dough. So, are you okay with not having a real grand life? Her dad is a captain for Delta, so he's, I mean,
He's doing okay.
like she had nice things. And I said, I don't know if our kids will be able to have the same nice things that you had. Is that okay with you? I wanted to know if that was an expectation of hers, that her husband would provide for her in that way. So, and we talked about a lot of expectations. I call expectations the silent killer, because you don't know they're there. And they can really mess things up if you don't know they're there. So you got to talk about expectations. It's okay to have expectations as long as they're clear and agreed upon. That, okay, I understand that, and that's something I'm willing to do in our relationship. So, all right, another verse, Proverbs 4:7 says, the beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom, and whatever you get insight. So, like I said, whatever we could find that might possibly drive a wedge between us in the future, we want to define those things. And so that's why being open and honest from the start is really, really important. So, all right, after marriage, we want to share a few things that we have learned after marriage. I think we're over the time already that we were supposed to, okay. Colette's saying we're good, so.
Are you guys awake?
Are y'all good?
We're awake?
Are y'all getting something out of this?
Okay.
Praise God. Okay. All right. So we've tried, you get married and you try different things, and honestly, what we have come to find is that the same things that we focused on before getting married are the same things that work after getting married too. I think there's a tendency, I'm going to skip down to something I wrote down at the bottom. There is a tendency, I think, a lot of times for people to think, okay, when I get married, things will be different. When I get married, I'll get better. When I get married, I won't struggle with sexual temptation anymore. When I get married, I won't feel empty anymore because I'll have somebody who completes me. When I get married, I won't struggle with worry or anxiety or depression anymore because I'll have that person to comfort me all the time. When I get married, then I'll learn how to stop being messy. When I get married, then I'll get organized. Then I'll learn how to spend my money. Right? There's this tendency to think when you get married, things are going to change. And the truth is, they are not. So whatever it is that you have in your life that you know is not good, that you know is not going to be good in marriage, you better work on that right now. Be working on that right now, because when you get married, nothing's going to change. You're just going to, be living in a house with somebody.
Yeah, some strange person that just lives with you.
Yeah. That's how it feels sometimes.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like at least every other month, she'll be like, I'm having one of those moments where I'm looking at you, and I'm like, who's this strange man that I live with? Not strange, but who's this man?
This man is in my house, sleeping in my bed, and I have now 4 his children, and it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't get it. Why are you still here? You're still here looking at me, and you're still here doing this.
So, number one, commitment to God, right? It's the same thing after you get married. Many people think, oh, my spouse needs to be my number one focus when I get married. That's not true. Your number one focus is still God. Because if you aren't close to God, you can't be close to your spouse. It really works more like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a triangle. And God is up here, and the closer you get to God, the closer you get to each other. That's how it works. And so a lot of times when we have had some bumps in the road, it's been because one or both of us is not close to God. One or both of us is not spending time in the Word or spending time in prayer, and we start getting at each other's throats. And there's something amazing, powerful that happens when we're both just like this with God, and we've been spending time building a relationship with God, and it's just everything just works in the marriage. Everything just works.
Those things that would normally upset you, they seem small.
Yeah, so small. It's crazy. So, time and time again, we've discovered that we just need to go back to number one, our commitment to God. Number two, establish healthy boundaries. The boundaries just look a little bit different when you're married, but it's the same. You got to have healthy boundaries with your communication, right? You got to learn how to communicate with each other and know what kinds of things hurt your spouse's feelings and how they need to be communicated with. You got to have healthy boundaries with your in-laws. That has been a journey. That's been fun. Sorry, I should have said it. Healthy boundaries with family. I mean, everybody has some crazy family members, right? But you gotta have healthy boundaries set up with extended family and all that. Because that's a way that the enemy can drive a wedge in between a marriage. Gotta have healthy boundaries with people of the opposite sex. I'll just tell you, I don't have any friends that are girls. I just don't.
It's not a real thing.
I don't need any friends that are girls. Why do I need that? There's plenty of guys out there who are awesome that I can hang out with. Yeah. I'm just telling you, I don't ever just go grab coffee with a girl who's a friend of mine. If I have a girl that I would consider a friend, then it's because she's married and we hang out with them together as a couple and we do games together and stuff like that. But even in those kinds of situations, I don't really find myself off in a corner talking to her on my own or anything. I don't need that. And the truth, that's what she's in my life for. I've committed to having eyes only for her, and I don't know. I just don't see a need. I don't necessarily think it's wrong to have friendships with somebody of the opposite sex when you're
but
married.
The situations that you find yourself
I just don't have a need to.
With someone of the opposite sex, that's where it's particular, and that's where the boundaries have to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it also eliminates any kind of question in your wife's mind or your significant other. It eliminates the insecurities of like, well, why are you going out to coffee? Like, there is no why. There's
just no need for it. It's just not.
And same for me. Same goes for me. Yeah.
Boundaries with time. What are you spending your time doing? And is it benefiting your family and your marriage? Or, I can't tell you how many times I've seen a relationship where they live in the same house and they have kids and they have, a lot of good things going on, but, one spouse is at work and then when they come home, they're going to the gym and hanging out with buddies and whatever, and like, they're not ever spending any quality time together. And so that's an important boundary to have, boundaries on your time. Anything else, babe? Boundaries?
No.
So, number 3, keep counsel close and keep yourselves accountable. So, you need people to help keep you on the right path. You need people who will be honest with you when you're not on the right path. We have a close friend who years ago, this couple, their marriage was going through quite the hiccup, and the wife was considering like leaving town and like, this is just too much. Like, I just want to go off on my own and find myself and all this stuff. And the wife went to a friend of hers to ask her what she thought, and the friend told her, "Baby, you should just do what makes you happy. Whatever makes you happy." She basically encouraged her to leave her husband. And a few months later, that friend who told her that ended up divorced. So this is what I'm talking about when I say you need to be asking the right people who tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. So now it didn't end that way. The husband called some friends of theirs, and a couple, there was friends of theirs, and said, "Hey, this is what's going on. I need help. I can't get through to her." And the wife, who was the friend, drives over to their house and goes to the man's wife and just starts just laying into her, just basically scolding her. She told her she was being stupid. She outright told her, "You're being dumb." She used the word stupid, I think, right? You were going to say something? You need a friend that will tell you when you're being stupid. You're going to have moments in your life where you're being stupid. You need to have friends in place that will be honest with you and tell you, "Hey, you're being stupid. You need to straighten up. Come on." And so, fortunately, that couple had those friends, and they're still together to this day, and they're doing very well. Praise God. So, that's really, really important. You need godly friends. Let's see. You want to talk about that?
Sure. So the fourth one,
No.
Yep. No? Oh, this. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, so. Okay. Oh. Okay, so early on, we had a conversation with Wise Counsel about how and when or if to ever involve our parents in our marriage and our marital things, issues or good things. But basically, I don't know why I keep turning it off. I need to turn it this way, I'm sorry. But I have a very close relationship with my parents. He grew up with 3 other brothers. I'm one of 2. So our parents were very, very involved in our lives and things that were going on in high school and college. And I told my mom pretty much everything. She was my best friend. Pretty much told her everything, all the gory details of my relationship with boys and all of that. So it was foreign to me to hear the idea that I shouldn't be sharing intimate details of my marriage with my mom or with my dad. And so learning how to navigate that and what was necessary and unnecessary for her to hear about is wisdom and discernment. Because the second that your parents don't see your spouse as your knight in shining armor or your princess that has just come along and, the second that happens, there's going to be a strain in your marriage. There's going to be a tension that doesn't need to be there at all. They should never ever see that other person in a negative light.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, we have this rule where with my parents, I'm always the bad guy. And with her parents, she's always the bad guy. So if we're like declining an invitation to go to something, if her parents are asking to do something, she will always be the one to say no. And then if the answer is yes, I'll usually be the one to say yes, right? So like, we're not trying to be deceptive or anything, but we're intentional about making sure that they don't, because if I always gave the bad news and she always gave the good news, well, they would think, why doesn't they're not going to forgive me like they're going to forgive her being her daughter. And the truth is, we've done this so well over the years. I promise you, I think I think my parents like her more than they like me now. Like, she is just a perfect angel. And, and for most of our marriage, I would say your parents have felt the same way about me too.
They've disowned me several times. It's okay.
Yeah. So, because we've done that really well, her parents adore me. Yeah. And my parents adore her. Why? Because we never talk to our parents about one another. Never. And we protect one another. We're the bad guy for each other. So, yeah. We have a lot of in-law rules that we follow. So
everyone's different. Everybody's different, but this is what has worked for us.
Even if your spouse is totally in the wrong, do not talk to your parents about them, because your parents will they're biased. They're 100% biased. So they're going to take your side. They're going to think of them as the bad guy, and that's just not going to be good for your marriage. All right, let's keep it moving. Number 4, prepare early for marriage. Well, same goes for when you're in marriage. You still have to prepare. The same training that you do for your body to get it in shape and to get it strong is the same training you got to do to keep it in shape and keep it strong. If you're like, if you know any business people, they do continued education, right? They still go to workshops and training. A lot of times they go back to school again to get another degree, to learn more. Teachers, they're always doing continued education, redoing certifications, all kinds of stuff to keep them sharp. And you got to do the same thing with marriage. So, if you don't use it, you lose it, right? So you got to keep that marriage muscle strong, if you will. And then the last thing, we're open and honest with each other up front, but we have learned that we have to continue staying open and honest. There should be absolutely 0 secrets between you and your spouse. 0. Nothing.
No secrets. Yeah. Nothing is too private and nothing is too, unless it's, you're planning a surprise birthday party. Literally, there should be no secrets.
Yeah. And that goes for your thoughts and your actions and your desires. I mean, share all those things. That's what they're there for. They are your life partner. You ought to be sharing all of your dreams and your desires, the good ones and the bad ones, all of the things that you struggle with. Like the Bible talks about bearing one another's burdens, and that's if that's for anybody, that's for your spouse. You ought to be bearing one another's burdens.
That should never, ever, ever be someone of the opposite sex that is not your spouse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And be really open about your expectations, your new expectations, because your expectations change over time. They will. And so you got to recommunicate your expectations. You got to communicate your needs that you have.
Ladies, so important. Because we make stuff up in our mind and we come up with all these grandiose ideas of how we want things to be, you know, for our birthday, for our anniversary, for Valentine's Day, for Christmas, for Thanksgiving. I mean, I keep going. But we have these expectations of how you envision your life or, you know, your spouse to be and respond. If you don't communicate that, how in the world is he gonna know? He's not gonna know.
Yeah.
So it's an opportunity to allow your spouse to succeed in your marriage by communicating your expectations. So.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna wrap this up and then have a Q&A. So I just want to remind you that when you get married, nothing's gonna magically change, and so you've got to prepare yourself for marriage now. Be working on that now and preparing yourself.
We've got lots of marriage material out here, right?
Overcome that addiction now. Overcome that depression now. Get more organized and learn how to be good with money now. Don't be thinking that it's going to change when you get married. If you're single, you have no idea where to go from here, then just prepare yourself. Prepare yourself, commit to God, delight yourself in God, and the right kind of people will come your way. There's no such thing as the one. Sorry to burst your bubble, but and make sure that you're asking the right people for counsel and for guidance on the direction of where you're going in your relationships and things like that. Make sure you got friends around you who will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Amen? So focus on God, commit to God, delight yourself in God, and you will find somebody who is right for you. And then just continue to do these things. All right? Is Q&A next, Colette?
Yes.
Okay. What do you guys got?
Hit us with it.
Someone else has
Hit us with it.
I don't question.
Are you a question? Okay.
Hi, my name's Lexi. I'm friends with Brandon and Alana. We work at the library together. Brandon has been making me credit card for weeks, and he's kind of been a mentor for me with my journey to God. So I just wanted to share that because it's really important. I used to be Catholic, and so it's been really hard to just get back to church. I've been in church for like 5 years, so it's been a lot. I wanted to ask you because I'm in a committed relationship for almost a year. Our anniversary is next month, so it's exciting. I wanted to ask you because you said that you didn't disagree on anything with like the political thing, but isn't it important? It's important to have differences so that you can work through stuff and compromise. So you can find that, you know, where you differ to work on that and you know.
Oh, we've had plenty of differences. We've found a lot of things over time, but for us, it was important from the beginning to make sure there weren't any really, really big things that we
Like things that
significantly
like
disagree
that
on.
God's, you know, that's clear in His Word. You know, things that are, I don't know how else to say that. You know, like basically not in alignment with your faith.
Yeah.
Because there are, you know, menial things, and you know, especially now, like with COVID and things that people are just, you know, funny about. People get weird. But the big stuff.
Yeah, marriage is a never-ending learning process. There's no such thing as an expert. I mean, I promise you, we don't have a perfect marriage,
Nope.
and we do it wrong all the time. But we're just constantly trying to learn how to do it better. And so, with that, like we have found plenty of things that we disagree on, and you know.
You find that truly the best thing is to find understanding on both ends. So
Absolutely.
so it's okay if you see things differently or you have two different opinions. But if you can say, you know what, I hear you, and I understand where you're coming from, and that you know, your perspective makes sense to me. Just that alone, you'll find peace, because it won't be about who's right or who's wrong anymore. There's both understanding on I can't speak. Yes. Yeah.
Now I have to tell my understanding story. You know the one.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll try to do it really, really quick. I'll give you a brief version. There's a man on a bus. He takes his kids with him. It's like a red-eye bus. It's middle of the night, everybody on the bus is tired because it's the middle of the night. It's
They're all planning
a
to go to
long
sleep.
bus ride. Everybody's planning to go to sleep, keep it nice and quiet. They get on, and his kids are just running around acting crazy, making a bunch of noise, bumping into people, and he's not doing anything about it. He's just staring out the window. He's just staring out the window like nothing's going on. And all these people are like, they're trying to read their books and get sleepy. They're like snuggled up with the pillow. What is going on? And this goes on for a long time. It goes on for 5 minutes and then 10 minutes. And like everybody's starting to talk like, is somebody gonna say something to this guy? Like, this is ridiculous. What is going on? You can almost like feel the frustration, right? Like, what is wrong with this guy? Why is he
They're
not?
all looking around each other like someone would say something or like.
So finally somebody speaks up and they're like, sir, and he's looking out the window and he turns around and says, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yes. And he says, can you please get your children under control? They're disturbing everybody. It's very inconsiderate and everybody's trying to relax and go to sleep and we can't do that. And he says, oh, I'm so sorry. My wife just passed and my kids, they just don't know how to process this and I'm kind of out of it. I'm so sorry. I'll get them calmed down. I'm sorry. Now, just about 30 seconds ago, you were thinking like, what's wrong with this guy? But then you got the rest of the information and suddenly you have all the compassion in the world for him. Nothing changed, but everything changed about the way you were seeing him. And so that's why understanding is everything. You can be on a different page with one another, but then you find that understanding and it's like, oh, I understand why you feel that way. That makes sense to me. And suddenly you're not upset about it. And like every disagreement in life, I don't think we found a single disagreement that we've ever had, big or small, that wasn't a result of a misunderstanding of some kind. So, that was a great question.
I have a follow-up for it.
Yeah.
So, kind of want you guys to elaborate a little more. So you don't want us to bear a burden with other people, but you want to counsel with others. So like,
No. Yeah, well, let's specify. That's a good question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, yes, okay, that's a great question. With someone alone of the opposite sex, you don't want them to bear your burdens.
Right.
Because that's how intimacy forms. Does that make sense, everybody? Because the second you start sharing your heart and soul with someone, that is,
That's intimate.
that is very intimate. And you may not find them attractive at first. But the second that you start hearing their deepest heart's desires and their dreams and their, all that stuff, suddenly it's like, oh, I think I like you. Or, I'm not saying that's not how it would be every time, but that is
A lot of times
the
it
devil
does
can
happen.
get a foothold.
I got a lot of men in my life that I can go to and
Yeah,
share
find
my burdens with
yourself
them.
a
She's
great
got a lot of
woman.
women in her life.
Yes, find yourself a woman of God that's going to lead you, steer you, and be right there to walk with you.
Great question.
I was just gonna add to it. Like I was thinking, not privately, like not as a couple going to an opposite sex, that's what you meant, right?
Right. We're saying,
Yeah.
I'm never gonna go to some other woman in the church
Yeah.
and
Confide.
confide in her and share with her, things that I'm like dealing with and
We do
have a
double
heart to heart with
dates.
her.
We do double dates with another couple and
Yeah.
chit chat and, enjoy a good time. It's not that at all.
Yeah.
It's
And
just,
we do a lot of counseling with couples too, with both present. But if a man needs counsel or if a woman, I have never and I will never counsel a woman alone. It's not an option. If there's a woman who does need counseling in a church and for whatever reason, she needs a pastor's opinion or something, I'll invite my wife to come to that counseling appointment. Or if she's not available, I'll grab another staff member to sit in with me because I'm never going to counsel with a woman alone. Whether it's in public, door
In
open, that
cars,
doesn't matter.
in
I'm
a
not having a
restaurant
conversation
alone.
alone with
Yeah.
another woman.
Jonathan?
Yeah.
How does one have the audacity to tell one they think is the message right, that they want to spend their life with them? How did you work up that courage?
So,
I've hinted at wanting to.
you mean
go up
to
with-
propose?
Yeah.
That sounds like a proposal.
Well, that, but how do you say yes to a first date?
Okay, so first date. So first date and marriage are two different things. If you walk up to a girl who you've never been on a date with and say, I think I'm gonna marry you, she'll probably run. She'll probably take out run.
I won't go on that.
Yeah. First date. How should you ask a girl on a first date?
I don't know, how should you do it?
It's been a long time since I dated. I mean, we still date.
Yes,
We still date. You got to date when you're married too.
It's true.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see. Gosh, it was a long time ago when he asked me out on a date. I'm just trying to think. I think the best way is you just gotta start being friends first. I mean, that sounds corny, really cheesy, but you gotta get to know her. You gotta know what her interests are. You gotta know the things that she's excited about. Because if you don't, how are you gonna know what's a great idea for a first date that you know she's gonna say yes to? Like for me, he knows I love sushi. He knows I love cats.
Yeah.
He knows that, whatever it is. He's like, hey, do you want to go get sushi with me? And he didn't say, do you want to go out on a date? And I'm never going to say no
Yeah,
to
that's
sushi.
what I was gonna say. I mean,
So whatever that girl likes, if she likes knitting, hey, you want to go to this knitting class? I mean,
but you don't have to know a lot about them. You want to just say, hey,
it just helps.
would you want to get coffee with me next week?
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it's as simple as that. And then you get together and you just have a conversation, get to know each other better.
Don't get weird on her,
Yeah, don't get weird.
Don't
If she doesn't want to get coffee, don't ask, well, do you want to go get sushi? No. Well, do you want to go to a movie? No. Well, how about skydiving? The answer is going to be no. There's no first. If she likes you, she's interested in you, she'll say yes to coffee. Because she'll want to spend time with you. And if she doesn't, that's okay. Don't make her feel awkward. Don't fixate on her or him. If they say no, that's fine. That's fine. I promise you, there are plenty of other fish in the sea.
I was gonna say don't say it, but you said it.
It's cliche, but it's so true. Again, it might sound crazy to you for me to say this in front of my wife, but I don't think she's the only person I could have married and had a vibrant, healthy, exciting relationship with. I do have a healthy, vibrant, exciting marriage with her, but I believe there are other women on this planet that would have been just as good for me. But thank God
if
that
something happened to me,
I did choose someone who was really good for me.
No, we don't want to talk about that. But if something happened to me, I would want him to find someone to spend the rest of his life with after that. We've talked about that. I would want him to be happy with somebody else and have a rich life with, a life partner.
So really, don't get fixated on anybody. If somebody turns you down, or if you have a really big stupid crush on somebody, and they end up, it becomes clear they don't like you back. Don't let your world be shattered.
I got shut down a lot of times. Not by him, but there were a lot of guys that I liked. There were a lot of guys that I liked that they didn't like me back. They just didn't.
Yeah.
And don't waste your time, girlfriend.
Another question.
One more? What are some practical things you did in the dating process to keep God in the center?
Oh, good question.
We went to Bible study every single week.
Yeah, we did. Mhm.
Without fail, we were highly involved. We obviously went to church. And there were other things that we invested in too, I think. I'm pretty sure we went to conferences, a couple retreats, where it gave us an
With our Bible
opportunity,
study
yeah,
friends.
to get to know each other in a fun Christian setting. So.
Yeah. And then just a lot of the other things we talked about, like good counsel, having good counsel, reading books, and we would talk about a lot of the things that came up in the books and in the conferences, and also we would talk about those things. And, can you remind me of the question again? Practical things. How we got around to that. We just constantly reevaluated our relationship, and we would, whenever it seemed like there was something that was inching its way toward the center, one of us would bring it up, hopefully sooner than later, and we would talk about it, and we would go, okay, is this thing getting in the way? If it is, how do we remove it? How do we change that? What do we need to change about our relationship so that that's no longer trying to take the place of God and become an idol in our relationship?
All right, last question. It's you. Who? You. Okay.
Paul mentions the idea that when one is single, they oftentimes have much more availability in order to serve the ministry
Yes.
of the Lord. And as we know, marriage can be a ministry to the Lord, right?
Yeah.
To one another, right? Have you found that in your marriage that you now have less opportunity to serve God in ministries outside of your marriage?
So he says if you have a burning desire, then by all means get married, because it's better to be married than to burn with desire and end up in all kinds of sin. I in all honesty, if I was single, I would have a whole lot more time to dedicate to God. I believe that verse is for us when he says if you can stay single happily, then by all means do it. You'll be able to be more available to God. You'll be able to commit more to Him, because my attention is torn. I love this woman, and so I do, throughout my day, I think about how I can give to her and love on her and serve her. But if I was single and if I was happily single, then all of those thoughts, in addition to everything else I do for God, all those thoughts that take that time and energy, I would be thinking about God. I would be thinking about, ministry and serving others and how I can, make a positive impact in people's lives. So my focus would 100% be on God. So I think it's a great question. I think if you are happily single, then stay happily single. But if you have a desire deep in your heart to be married and have that relationship, then by all means, get married and have that relationship. So, because he said it's better to get married than to live with that burning desire. Did that answer the question fully?
No, that was awesome. It actually sounded like you just went through that whole chapter there. Just going through a lot of well, let's look at this. I wish you were all like me, but not all are like me. So,
Yeah.
Very good. Sounds good.
Well, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.